Hello class, this is lesson 1-5, multiplying and dividing fractions. This is a learning needed channel. As always, my request to students is to remember your reason to pass the GED test. No matter when you decided to do it, whether it was yesterday, a year ago, or time is not important here. The important thing is to keep your reason close to your heart, remember it, and use that to motivate you to get that GED certificate by passing all 4 exams. Second is to not give up. This is an endeavor for sure. You will pass the GED exam by using resources such as this channel, those books, getting a tutor, anything to help you, and learning the material. You will pass the GED test as long as you keep going, push past the hard parts, and don't give up. Finally, please like and subscribe to this video and my channel. I can only produce these videos with your continued support, and I hope that by producing these videos, I help out students that are trying to get their GED certificate. If you are interested in one-on-one tutoring with me, I do have a tutoring service available in my website below. This is in case you want to go over a specific problem, a set of problems, you want an evaluation of where you are, and this is for all GED subjects. If you are struggling or just want that live help, please check that out. Finally, I do have a suggested study material for my students, and that is the Kaplan GED Test Prep Book. It is released every year, and you can get the latest year, but I've noticed that the Kaplan books keep the same material, formatting, and sometimes even the same questions every year. They just do some updates every time they release a book. So don't feel inclined to get the latest year available, especially if budget is of concern. You can go to a used bookstore or go online, look for a used book of a previous year if it's cheaper, and that should help you out as well. Finally, note that the only approved calculator allowed in the GED math test that you can bring with you physically is the TI-30XS model. If you bring any other type of calculator, you will not be allowed to bring it in with you. But if you do not have a calculator physically with you, do not worry, you are not at a disadvantage. You will be able to use a virtual calculator that is available in the exam. But it is good practice to have one and get familiar with the buttons and how to use it. But again, it is not required. If you are interested in purchasing a copy of the latest available Kaplan GED Test Prep Book or the TI-30XS model calculator, I have links to purchase those in the video description below. All right, let's get started. Multiplying fractions can be argued is easier than adding and subtracting fractions, which may seem a bit odd because multiplying whole numbers can be argued is harder or more complex than simply adding or subtracting numbers. But the reason that it is simpler in fractions is because you do not need a common denominator, which was mentioned in the adding and subtracting fractions lesson. When you are multiplying fractions together, you are simply multiplying across. In other words, you are multiplying the numerators to each other and the denominators to each other. So say that we have this example problem, 3 over 5 and 4 over 6. When you are setting it up, all you're doing is setting them up next to each other and multiplying across. So 3 over 5 times 4 over 6 really just looks like 3 times 4 over 5 times 6. When you solve these multiplication problems, it becomes 12 over 30. Note again that when working with fractions, based on what the question is asking you or the answers provided in the multiple choice, you may be required to reduce the fractions to lowest terms. When dividing fractions, these problems also do not require a common denominator. It is different than multiplying fractions because it now becomes a two-step process. When you divide fractions, you first swap the places of the numerator and the denominator in the second fraction only. Once you have done that, then you multiply the fractions together as if it was just a regular multiplication fraction problem. So it is really, division fraction problems are really multiplication fraction problems with a step that is done before you do it. So let's say that it asks us to solve 5 over 8 divided by 1 over 3. And the first thing that I'll note is that the second fraction in this case is the 1 over 3. It's literally the second fraction that is mentioned in the division problem. The first step says to swap the places of the numerator and denominator. You trade places of where they are. The 1 is the numerator, so it now becomes the denominator, and the 3 is the denominator, and it becomes a new numerator. You're just flipping the location of the numbers. When you have done that, then you multiply this new problem, and it becomes 5 over 8 multiplied by the new fraction, the new second fraction of 3 over 1. And you multiply across just like a regular fraction problem, just like a regular multiplication of fraction problems. And the answer is 15 over 8. Let's go over some example problems. Multiply 12 over 15 and 3 over 5. Again, this is just multiplying the numerator and denominators to each other. So you set up that problem across, and it really is 12 times 3 over 15 times 5, and that is 36 over 75. And if required, you would reduce to lowest terms. Example problem 2, solve 12 over 15 divided by 3 over 5. If you'll notice, I used the same fractions as the previous problem, but now we are dividing them. So let's see how that changes the answer. First, you will swap the numerator and denominator of the second fraction. So 3 over 5, the fraction values or the fraction terms get swapped with each other, and the new fraction looks like 5 over 3. Then you multiply the numerator and denominators to each other, now using this new fraction, this new second fraction. And it really just looks like 12 times 5 over 15 times 3, which is 60 over 45. And that is the quotient of 12 over 15 divided by 3 over 5. So that was today's lesson on multiplying and dividing fractions. It is less steps and more concise than adding and subtracting fractions, only because you don't have to find that common denominator. But with the division of fractions, just make sure that you do not forget that first crucial step of swapping the places of the numerator and denominator in the second fraction. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next lesson.